Good morning, South Africa, and welcome to State of the Nation, where we take an honest and unfiltered look at the true state of this country. If you enjoy the conversation, please subscribe and turn on notifications. We want to build a community for all South Africans that transcends race and gender and adds positively to the national dialogue. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, the Standard Bank chairperson, Nonkululeko Nyembezi, said it's time for African governments to get out of the way. She told the forum, "We need a better quality of governance across the continent. If governments just did one thing, govern better, we would probably take 2 steps, 3 steps forward." She said it was time for African governments to put aside their distrust of the private sector and allow it to lead economic growth. As a black woman, she could make these comments without being called a racist or anti-black. I hope the continent, and South Africa specifically, note what she said. One of the main ideas behind classical liberalism is limited government, meaning the state should not try and control the economy. Also, they place less restrictions on how businesses can operate. Unfortunately, since independence, most African countries have taken the socialist approach of authoritarian and interventionist governments. They attempt to centralize power and direct every aspect of the nation. Generally, countries with limited governments have more robust economies, greater human rights, and a better standard of living. South Africa has suffered because of the ANC's insistence on centralized power and state-driven economic development. This meant that the ANC used the state and state-owned enterprises as an employment vehicle for job creation. It resulted in a bloated and ineffectual public sector and a simply unsustainable wage bill. In centralized government, there is no backup if the government-controlled institution fails, with Eskom being a case in point. In a free market economy, under a limited government, the private sector would absorb the failure of any one company without destructive results to the country. But in a centralized state, one point of failure affects the entire nation. One incompetent or corrupt person in the wrong position of power can bring down the whole country. This is why the Standard Bank chairperson's comments are valid. The government should focus on its governance role and not try to dictate and control everything in the country. Things function better when the state gets out of the way. Unlike state-owned enterprises, private companies cannot fail and then rely on taxpayer bailouts. Companies must offer a valuable service to survive. They must add value to the nation, instead of being a drain on tax resources. Also, the private sector should not be beholden to political influence, allowing them to operate under the best practice, instead of pandering to populist ideas. Without government interference, merit replaces nepotism, meaning the quality of services and innovation improves. If South Africa is to avoid complete failed state status, we must dispense with the failed experiment of centralized power. It's time to open the economy up. We must eliminate race-based laws, reduce the number of state-owned enterprises, secure private property rights, and allow the private sector to lead economic growth without political interference. On that note, please support this channel by liking, subscribing, and joining in the conversation by leaving a comment. If you want to know more about what is happening in the world, check out our sponsor's book, The Ministry of Truth, by Ethan Quinn. This book explains how identity politics is used to manipulate society.
Despite the propaganda, this is not a struggle between people of diverse cultures, races, or genders. In reality, the culture war is taking place to decide the fundamental question of our time: what sort of society do we want?